Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and I'm flying solo tonight. Matt, unfortunately, could not make it, but I'm back in the saddle again. It's been a few weeks since we've done a podcast, but man, I can't think of a better guest to have on as a return to the live podcasting than my good friend, the President and COO of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, my friend Randy Prasse. Randy, welcome back to the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thank you. I think we talked about this last year. You should have like a Saturday Night Live returning guest club, like 5 years in a row. I should get a blazer or something.
I need to do that because I was thinking, I guess this is year 5, I think, right?
Yeah.
I think this is our 5th time. Yeah. So I think that makes you the highest appearing guest ever on the Bourbon Life Podcast. We've had a couple 4, but you are the only 5. So congratulations on that. I owe you. I'll bring you something to the Bourbon Festival.
Oh, that's great. When you were saying the best person, like the best person available to join you.
Not at all. No, man, this is great. I was like just thinking of guests, and I'm like, I've got to get back to doing live guests. And I was like, I need to get Randy on because we're 2 weeks. Well, when this comes out, we'll be right at 2 weeks out, right?
Yeah. I mean, we start building Monday, the 25th, and we open.
Yeah.
Bourbon in the Air is Thursday, the 4th, and we got Labor Day holiday in there, which we're working right through. It doesn't mean anything to us, except for the city offices and the schools and the street closures on that one day is kind of a bonus day for us building. But it sneaks up on us, and I would much rather be sitting with you in your basement studio there, sitting on the end, up in the middle, and we're actually hanging out. So next year, let's hit this a little earlier, and then I can
absolutely
see you and hang out, which I'd rather do. But
definitely. And speaking of which, my wife told me to tell you hello, and Leo, our cat, misses you as well. He's sad that you're not here in person.
I'm a cat person, and they know it. I'm convinced that cats know that. So.
Oh yeah, man. So Randy, let's talk about the festival. This is the 34th year. Is that correct?
That's right.
Man, that's just crazy. And you've been doing this. You've been at the helm since 2020. Is that right?
So this is technically the 5th year of this new festival that we've embarked on back in 2020 before COVID hit. You know, we already had kind of the plans and the vision going, and then COVID just was tapped the brakes for a year and gave us extra time to roll out the real thing in 2021, and we've just not looked back since.
Yeah. And that's great. I mean, it's unfortunate that was kind of the first foray for you into when COVID hit. That threw a wrench, obviously, in everybody's gears. But, it was a blessing for a lot of people as well. It's weird to say that. But, for us as a podcast, it obviously helped us because it allowed us to get so many more guests than we normally otherwise would have been able to get on the show because nobody had anything to do. Right. So they're like, oh, okay, we'll talk to you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there really is no upside to that, but I always say the same thing. We had an audience that was looking for content, and we had master distillers that were grounded. They weren't going anywhere. And so when Steve Coombs and I did that first year, 2020, we changed from the live festival, which was obvious we weren't going to do that virtual. And the master distillers were coming in, and they were all blown away by how professional we were in our production, cameras and lights and microphones, and
right.
And Steve was professional and buttoned up in his questions. And so that did 2 things for us. Number one, there's a lot of content out on the internet back in 2020, but not a lot of good content. And we had good content that helped put us in front of new eyes. And the master distillers went back into their businesses, and the marketing people and the event people and the executives in many cases heard how well we treated them, and then they saw the final product. So if there is a silver lining to that nasty cloud, it was the fact that we had a chance to prove ourselves and show what we were going to become, and then just make sure we built on that going forward. So I'll always say that there people were a little skeptical. They walked into a room expecting Randy with his phone, shooting the camera, and they were blown away. So I think the eyes, we were 85% local and 15% maybe people from outside the area, and we flipped that in 5 years. And I always give credit to that first year of having a very willing and available, master distiller and the distillery brands helping us out. And then they've never let us down, and we hope that we never let them down. And it's just a great situation to be in.
Yeah. But I mean, I think, Randy, it speaks volumes for you. I mean, I know you had a lot of experience in events coming into this, but still to have to come in thinking you're going to be doing one thing, and then all of a sudden finding out you're doing something completely different that nobody's really ever done before.
Yeah.
Being able to put all that together and make it happen and doing it successfully like you did. I mean, it speaks volumes for you, for your leadership, and for your team as well. But yeah, I mean, I think,
and you and the viewers, the followers, I mean,
yeah.
You and I hit it off right off the bat, because I think you've kind of felt sorry for me that first year. Just getting out of 2020 wasn't the spike the ball like we've made it. 2021, we changed the festival 3 times in about a month because there were still COVID protocols. And,
right. Right.
And I don't mean to, I'll mention that this was Heaven Hill, but it was across the board, several distilleries, but Heaven Hill was the most obvious. They were all supportive, and they sit on my board, supportive of it. And then, if we don't do proof of vaccination, they were going to pull out. So we had a special board meeting, and politics aside, it was a good debate back and forth. Do we? And the bottom line is, if we don't have this festival, if we don't pull it off because of principles on not making people show proof of vax, this organization dies. So It goes away. So we did it. And then Heaven Hill was right back. And then they actually brought their trailer and truck to the festival grounds. I went out and spotted them right where they were going to be. The truck took off. And by the time I got back up into my office and looked out the window, the truck was back and the trailer was disappearing. And that was, they went on strike at midnight that night, right before the festival.
Man, yeah, that's right.
And they didn't want to be the lightning rod that drew all that attention. So, yeah, they decided they were going to sit one out. And they still made good on all their commitments for product and things like that. But they just didn't think it would be right to be sitting there. So, and then the Thursday, 2 days before one day before we officially opened, we had 6 inches of rain in about 2 hours. And we literally had a river running from the church parking lot. You could have put a kayak down and gotten the movement going down through the middle of the lawn. And we had the big carpeting, and it was nightmarish. But when that thing got done and we went home, I think I climbed under a rock until the end of it. And I knew the whole time that I needed to be out getting ready for the next year, but I just was so emotionally spent having that festival come off. But I mean, obviously it turned out well, but I know I kicked a couple of months on the calendar that I should have been being productive, and I was just sitting in my basement, like watching movies and stuff.
Oh man! Well, I actually missed that year, 21. I had COVID. I had it pretty bad actually, so I unfortunately was not able to attend that. I think Matt was there, but I was not able to make it. Haven't missed it since then, obviously, but yeah, man, just
good times ahead.
Absolutely, Randy. I mean, this is something, it's for bourbon lovers. This is kind of like the Super Bowl for us. I mean, honestly, I don't know of any better way to say it. And what you guys have put together, I mean, thinking about what the festival used to be, and not to take away from, the fact that it was going on for so long, but man, what you guys have done, I mean, you built this into really the premier bourbon, if not the premier whiskey festival, I think, in the world. I mean, you guys have done a fantastic job, Randy.
Well, we didn't have an option, and not to rehash all the history, but for 29 years, that community and that industry, mostly the Nelson County, Bardstown, distilleries, put that thing on their back and made it happen. So I always say, and I started off my career, the first 10 years was as a volunteer, where I was passionate. I was given as much time to the event that I was working on as I was my paid job. So I fully understand and appreciate every minute of a volunteer that took it for 29 years against all odds and got it to where we could take over. But the distilleries told us what we had to be, and we weren't that. And now we are. And that it's just as simple as that. We listened and we delivered the experience that the distilleries wanted. And we're lucky that it also happens to coincide with what the bourbon enthusiasts want. Because, you keep the distilleries happy, everybody else gets happy, down the road. So that's all we've done. Nothing that dramatic or complicated.
Yeah. And this year's festival, it's going to be September 5th, 6th, and 7th. You said but Thursday, the 4th is the Up in the Air event. The night
Bourbon
before.
in the Air. It's the opening night preview.
Yeah. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are the 3 days there at the event. And that's there at the Oscar Getz Museum on the lawn there, correct?
Correct. And then in front of, if you haven't been, it's actually 3 city blocks now that we've kind of taken over. We've got the old Spalding Hall, the Great Lawn, and then to the north, we've got the City Hall Park, which is literally full of mature trees. It's a beautiful venue. And then to the south, St. Joseph's Church, we have their parking lot, and we've used it for a couple of years. But when people ask me like, what's new this year, and I'm sure we'll get to that, that's really the major improvement I feel like we've made for the festival. But so if you haven't been there, it's 3 blocks all kind of connected together seamlessly. There's a craft area, and then there's the area where the mid and larger distilleries are setting, and then there's a little extra fun that we're doing this year.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I love the setup. I always, you walk in through the barrel, through the big entryway. It's really well set up. It's really cool. And then you walk in, you've got the big distilleries, typically the larger, the historical type of distilleries on the left side, usually, and then the smaller distillers on the right side. Yeah. But you do have those big trees and everything there, man. So it's like, even if it does get to 90 degrees, you can still find shade, and there's plenty to drink always. So,
yeah. Well, and first of all, that we've retired the old gate, so we have a new admission gate that's built.
Okay.
The plan is it's a little smaller than the old one, a little easier to assemble and store, because that originally wasn't made to be out on the street. That was made to be the entrance to the great tent, which used to be on the lawn there. So size wasn't an issue. And now when we tried to retrofit it, make it it just was a little too big. But so this year, the idea is that you've got the barrels on one side, you've got a still from Vendome on the other side in plexiglass. And then the ceiling is, if all the tech gods work out for me, it'll be a video board.
Really?
Of like a waterfall, only with bourbon. So as you're walking through Fremont Street experience in Bardstown.
Yeah.
We've had some challenges with getting the video boards actually here, but that's the plan. But yeah, when you walk in, and this goes back to when I used to run craft beer festivals. You walk in, and people come in and say, okay, there's the brands that I know, and then they immediately go into the homebrew area or like the smaller craft, and because they want to find something new. And they know the brands that they love are there, but I want to go find something new while I'm still fresh, and then take time. But we're 3 days, and it's a very small venue still, so it's not like this. You got to try to do things in 4 hours like you would at a beer festival. You've got 3 days to go in and kind of meander. So it's kind of a cool vibe that we hopefully take advantage of for everyone.
Absolutely. My best advice to everybody is just pace yourself.
Yeah,
because you have 3 days.
And you think about it, you got 6 hours on Friday and Saturday, and then 4 hours on Sunday, and 65 distilleries, and probably close to, if not over 300 different SKUs. And the last year or two, we've really been growing the bottle sales piece. Years ago, a couple of distilleries figured it out and were able to take their gift shop and bring it to the festival and do it. And then this last year, everyone else figured out, because they heard what the sales were like for the ones that did. So this year, I think everybody is selling, and a lot of the big distilleries are not just selling our single barrel bottles that we've been picking all spring, but also, releasing products. Last year, Beam has been really good at releasing a couple of products.
Yes.
Like Bakers, and then like Heaven Hill always brings some special things out. So more and more the distilleries are bringing out their own releases. And I just love it. It's kind of like the Consumer Electronics Show, only for bourbon. And the distilleries are finally getting it, that they're using this opportunity to launch new products and really get a lot of that fanfare.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you could tell too, because the lines, it's funny because you walk around like Heaven Hill last year, the line, it was crazy how many people were lined up to get their stuff. So it's like, there's something good over there for sure. Beam was kind of the same way. I can't remember what I picked up while I was there. But I'm always going to go visit, and they were cutting country ham over there as well at Beam.
Fred and Freddie was sitting there in a rocking chair cutting ham. I mean, how much more Kentucky can you running in?
Oh man, it was great. So we're just doing things a little differently tonight. But you and I we're drinking Angel's Envy. We're drinking different ones. But we chose Angel's Envy. We want to tell everybody why we decided to pick Angel's Envy to taste on tonight.
Well, for those of you who have been following us for a couple of years, every year we have a featured distillery. And it started off with Maker's Mark. And the true story was, Bill Samuels has been very vocal about Bardstown not living up to being the bourbon capital of the world. And he's been kicking people in the butt for years to step up. You wouldn't know driving through Bardstown 10 years ago that it was the bourbon capital of the world. So you see a lot of the branding and the water towers and all of that. Yeah. So when I had the first opportunity to talk to him, COVID, I was escorting him down to where we were going to do his session that he and Rob were sitting on. And I had that sidewalk to tell him what we were going to do. They did the recording with Coombs, and then I walked them back to the car. And the next day, I'll never forget this, Thomas Bolton, Thomas. Mm-hmm. Thomas called me and says, man, I don't know what you said to the old man yesterday, but he's really fired up about the Bourbon Festival. He wants to donate a barrel to you. And, wow. And just showing my naivety, I'm like, that's great, I guess. What do I do with it? What the hell am I going to do with a barrel full of? He goes like, no, we're bottling it and putting your label and stuff on it. But that bottle was the bottle that started our whole single barrel program. Oh yeah. And they donated it and we sold it for profit. And then, so they were the first featured distillery because I said, we got to do something to show them the love. So it was them. And then we came back with Beam and, donated a barrel. Next year we had Bardstown Bourbon Company. This year we've got Angel's Envy as our featured distillery. So what that entails is they do their barrel pick that they already do with us that they sell. And then they do a special barrel that we then bottle, and that's what some of our VIP guests get as part of their package. So they get to name the cocktail for the year for that festival. And really, the Master Distillers Dinner that we do at the River House, you've been, it's one of those things where whatever the distillery wants within reason, we will do that to elevate their exposure and the partnership. So Keith Kaiser from WDRB wanted us to do a morning thing, but during the festival. And I said, well, we're already sold out. It doesn't do any good for you to be out here rolling a barrel or doing whatever when we don't have tickets to sell. So why don't you do something with us on the on-sale date on April 15th? And so we did. So 4:30 in the morning, I'm meeting Keith Kaiser down at Angel's Envy in the distillery, and we're doing hours of all these great cut-in promotions. And so that's what the featured distillery gets. So this year it's Angel's Envy. They weren't a big supporter of ours in the old days. Wes Henderson once famously rented the third floor Brindiamo penthouse, as it's known now, but our KBF office, before it was our office, it was the third floor of that old Spalding Hall. He rented it during Bourbon Festival weekend and had their own party up there separate. So, I mean, the first time I talked to Wes, I said, I heard about this. I won't say exactly what I told him, what I thought of it, but I said, it's a gutsy move. I kind of admire that. And we did it. The KDA teed up a Zoom call for me, and it was the checkerboard of Zoom calls. There was probably 20, like Hollywood Squares, but 20 of us, and I was only looking at a portion. And it was the first time that I addressed all of the KDA, and I was telling them about the plan for this new festival, and Wes interrupted me and said, "Hey, Randy, I don't know. What if you're able to do even 25% of what you say you're going to do with this festival? You can count Angel's Envy back in," and they've been back ever since. So, Angel's Envy's got, a little special history with me, as does Makers, Brown Forman. Also, there's a great connection there, just kind of above and beyond, because you have to have those big names to pull this off. It can't always be about them. You have to focus on the craft. But if you don't have the big names, that's kind of an indicator, to the consumer, if nothing else, that I don't want to be just a craft bourbon festival. I want to be, the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So all those fun little stories that I kind of look back on, how we plan this, and not one distillery has ever gotten mad about, well, why do they get to be this? No one's ever actually asked that in a bad way. Like, we'd like to be considered, and that's what Angel's Envy did last year. How do we become the featured distillery? So it's never, why do they get that and why don't we? Which is what a lot of people thought by singling one distillery out and elevating them. No, everybody's got the chance. It's just a matter of take your time. We're in this thing for the long haul. 34 years. We just announced the 35th, the dates here a week or two ago. So I think all the distilleries know that we're in this thing for the long haul. We continue to listen to them and make those changes. So, there's no hard feelings or any like jealousy over why so-and-so gets to be elevated. Everybody has an opportunity to. So it's
and I think it speaks
the collaborative, the industry.
And it speaks volumes, I think, too, Randy, that, you have these large brands that are backing you guys, that are supporting it. And I think that says a lot, like you said, to the consumers, that, you're not just a small festival out there doing this on a, 4-hour basis. I mean, this is a very large festival. It's well attended. It's a huge event, but then you also have these heritage type brands that are obviously putting their name on it as your primary distillery for that year. Yeah. Which I think, it speaks volumes for their belief in you guys and what you're doing.
And we actually, to show you the extent that we pay attention and care for them, we changed how we picked our dates based on their availability. September is a very busy month, National Bourbon Heritage Month. There's a lot of things going on. Bourbon and Beyond is going on in Louisville. And so we purposely program our festival to not be on the same weekend as Bourbon and Beyond, partly because we want the master distillers to know that they can come to this festival and not have to jump in a car and drive, lickety split right up to Louisville for that show, which they've done in the past. But all the rental things and the hotel rooms and just all of the that we need to produce this event get more challenging when we're up against another bourbon themed event, albeit music with bourbon, we're bourbon. But so, I mean, the distilleries love that. And I just saw Chris Morris and Chris Pointer from Brown-Forman today, and they again said thank you so much for not putting the event on the same date range as Bourbon and Beyond. So it's not a competitive thing. We don't compete for our ticketed customers. If we land on the same weekend, we have seen people get on the wrong shuttle and end up in Bardstown when they're, someone got off the bus. Where do I see Maroon 5 play?
Yeah. Where's the bands? Yeah. Where's the stages? Well, hey, Randy, I tell you what, we're kind of at the end of round one here. Why don't we go ahead and take a quick break? I told you I'd keep the train on the tracks tonight. So we'll take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll come back with more with Randy Prasse, the President, COO of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, in just a minute.
Three Chords line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The three-chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they call Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody. Welcome back for round two of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and I'm flying solo tonight. Unfortunately, Matt could not join me, but I am in the Bourbon Life Studios, and I'm hanging out with one of our really good friends. He's our first 5-time guest. I'm going to have to go back and double check myself on that, but I'm pretty sure I can say that with confidence. Our first 5-time guest, good friend of mine, Mr. Randy Prasse, the President and COO of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Randy, welcome back for round two.
Thanks, Mark. Always love being with you.
Yeah, it's great to have. I wish you were here in person, but man, I know we're 2 weeks out and you are under the gun. You've got so much stuff going on. I just appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me here, even just remotely, just to kind of catch up. Because it's funny, Randy, because I feel like I used to see you all the time, and I just haven't been out as much this year, and I haven't really seen you. The last time I saw you was, we were talking earlier about the dinner, the Angels Envy dinner over in Louisville. Yeah. And I think that was the last time I actually saw you.
I believe so. Yeah. And I need to change that. We both need to change that. And that's one thing I'm trying to change for next year is I finally got a good team that's been here a couple of years and can take some of the heavy lifting. So I need to be out. I don't like being a politician, but some of this job is getting out and shaking hands and kissing babies, and I got to do more.
Absolutely. Well, I know of a perfect place here in Lexington. We can meet again anytime you come over, and we can have some cocktails or some pours. Absolutely. So we're talking about this year's Bourbon Festival. Tickets are sold out, just so everybody, of course, knows that, which is great because, Randy, that happened. How fast did that happen this year? Kind of crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, VIPs have always back to the first year or two of doing them a couple years ago, have always sold out in a couple of minutes. So that didn't surprise me. But the tickets, the general admission tickets, have usually been available to July and even early August before they finally sold out, and we slip right into fulfillment. Well, this year they sold out within 2 days. So we went on sale on a Wednesday, and by noon on Friday, I was sitting at Bardstown Bourbon Company getting ready to do our barrel pick, and I got a text message from our director of marketing saying, all tickets except for a couple of like straggler Sunday 1-day tickets were gone. And I just, very humbling to see that. And,
Absolutely.
But
again,
the industry. So early on, the year didn't start well. There was a lot of the doom and gloom, skies falling, the industry, the bubble has burst. And what we've proven is that interest from the consumer, the enthusiast, is still high. And, this bottle sales we talked about in the first segment, that's important now to all of these distilleries. I mean, Heaven Hill and Beam, they sell more bottles during the 3 days at the festival than they do at the bricks and mortar permanent gift shop connected to all the tours. So that this festival is really important. It's showing that the consumer interest is still very high. And I think the consumers feel like they're finally getting a chance to win, right? I mean, the secondary market is getting squished a little bit, and you can now go buy at retail a lot of these allocated bottles that was only a dream, like a unicorn to find. So I think the festival is even more important now, given that, because we can put the enthusiasts directly in front of the distilleries and help them out. We show up on their annual budgets and spreadsheets now as a blip. Like, what happened here in September? Oh, that's perfect. So yeah, I mean, that's very cool though. It's great to be able to show that side of the industry to all the people that were wanting to talk about all the doom and gloom things. So.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you about that, because this year has been really weird. I mean, in terms of people talking about we've reached that point, oversaturated, people are losing interest. I know Mark Brown put out a report or put out something last week or week before last that alcohol consumption's at like I think a 90-year low or something like that. I mean, just you see all these numbers and all these statistics and these things, and I'm thinking, man, are we really at that point? And then talking to you, and it's like you're selling out. People still have the love of bourbon. People still want to be active in it. People want to participate with it. They still love it. And like you said, enthusiasts want to be a part of it. And you guys give them, and I think that was a great point, what you said, that you really put the consumer, front and center, and they get these opportunities that they're not going to get really anywhere else, Randy. I think that's great.
Well, and obviously we're dealing with a very small percentage of the overall consumer and the drinking consumer. Right. And so I'm sure there's still, the ready to drinks and the THC stuff and just outright marijuana legalization and smoking. I just saw something over the weekend how that's taken a hit on, for the, the spirits world. But I saw it happen in the craft world, craft beer 10 years ago.
Right.
It was a big push. And then the IPAs, and everybody was trying to out hop the next guy and double and triple and feed their IPA through a Randall with more hops in it before it went in. And that kind of thing. But interestingly, like you always heard about before the boom, it was normal for distilleries to shut down for a month to 6 weeks every summer for maintenance and cleanup and installing new equipment. And for the last 15 years, they haven't been able to do that because of the demand. And now that they're back to those shutdowns, it's all of a sudden this doom and gloom that everybody is losing money. No, I mean, it's kind of reverting back to normal where they go in and do that cleaning and major maintenance and, all the electrical work and replacing that, when I was at Angel's Envy a week or two ago, they had Vendome there polishing their column. It's the first time they've had that column still polished and shined up ever. So, but they're down there and they shut production off for a couple of days, and they get to do that routine maintenance that otherwise doesn't happen.
Yeah,
so it's kind of normal.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, it's just a positive note. I mean, because like you said, we've heard doom and gloom, but to see numbers like that and to see you sell out that quickly, it just makes me happy to know that there's still a lot of people out there that are in love with this industry, and still love their bourbon and still want to be a part of it. So people that are coming this year, Randy, because we always like to talk about what people can expect. And I know each year you guys, that's one of the great things that you guys do. You really focus on what the past event was, and you're always looking at ways, I think, Randy, where you guys can make improvements or make things better, easier, whatever, for the consumer, more opportunities, more things, just a better overall experience. So let's talk about, can you share some of the things this year, what you've learned from last year, and then what people can expect going into this year's event?
And thank you. And people always want to know about bigger and better. I'm like, well, we're not bigger. We've capped off our ticket sales at the same level the last 3 years, including VIPs. There's a lot more money to be had if we were to sell more tickets, which we could have, and sold more VIP, but that definitely erodes the experience. And I learned early on that if everybody is a VIP, then nobody really is. So if every other person you see is walking around with these credentials, it doesn't mean anything. Now it does. And just because you were a VIP last year or 2 years ago, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it this year. But it's still cool because you have the people that are able to be VIPs that maybe missed out, but they're out on the lawn all 3 days and they're still buying. Their buying power hasn't changed. But you mentioned last year the Heaven Hill line, and I don't always like to single out Heaven Hill because there were several that had lines. But I went up mid-afternoon on Friday and looked out my window on the third floor that looks out over the main lawn, and I saw these lines, and I said, oh my God, we've ruined my festival. The vision I had was always this really chill experience, like
right.
Stroll from booth to booth and talk to people, and that's still there. But these lines, so during the festival, I went down and talked to everybody that had a line and said, you got to do something. You got to have your people communicating. People are standing in line for 45 minutes thinking they're getting a sample, but they're commingled with the bottle buyers. And I said, we got to do a better job of letting people know this line is for sales, this line is for sampling,
right? And
then not let your line go from your activation across 7 or 8 other distilleries up into the neighboring parking lot. People are willing to do it. I just don't like it. So what we did this year in the off season, immediately following the festival, we met with all the big distilleries and said, I think where I'm coming here. This is not a ongoing something that we can allow. And so they became part of the solution. Heaven Hill was the first one that was willing to relocate from their, honey spot where they've been sitting. Everybody knows they can run down the hill, and church parking lot I mentioned earlier, Heaven Hill and Maker's Mark and the Green River Bardstown Bourbon Company group will be out there, and then Preservation Marcy's moved out there. So a lot of the larger distilleries that are creating these lines are going to be out in that lot, but we're carpeting, we're putting turf down.
Okay.
And it's not like AstroTurf. This stuff looks like you can mow it. It's like realistic. Didn't come cheap, but we can't have a venue that is supposed to be a destination feeling like it's a parking lot with tents on it. So we're transforming that. We're putting up a large sunshade, hopefully sun, not a rain shelter, but sunshade, 30 foot by 132 feet with the big large air conditioning cooling fans. We're calling it the Bourbon Breezeway. So it'll be an area where while you're waiting in line, you're not just sitting out there in the weather waiting to get into your line. And then the Great Tent, which is where we do our premium distillery showcase events, we've tripled that in size and fully enclosed it and air conditioned it, and created a culinary focus, a suite, and then next door to it is a suite that's focusing on cocktail mixology, and then the third suite is going to be kind of more of a meet and greet with different people, because again, people want to sample and they want to buy their bottles, but a lot of people are telling us they want to do more with it rather than just drink it neat, which is amazing, but they want to be able to make cocktails and figure out how to incorporate it into their cooking and what pairs well with different bourbons. So, Steve and I have been working for a year or two now trying to figure out how we can incorporate that. So when you come in, that's really the major new thing, is how we're transforming a parking lot into a really cool destination for people. And hopefully it'll take those lines. And if you're into that and you don't mind standing in lines, that's where you go. But if you're coming to the festival and want more of that chill experience, you can have that too without having the two worlds necessarily kind of intertwined. And because it may not have been a problem for many, but it was a problem for me. And it's not the promise that we've made to where you're not going to be standing in line, which is why we limit the tickets in the first place, is who wants to go to an event and stand in line for everything? You want a food truck, you want to go use the restroom, you want to get a sample of something, you shouldn't have to stand in line all day. And so I took that one probably more seriously than anybody else did, but hopefully this year people will see a noticeable difference.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for doing that. Cause like I said, to me, it didn't matter. Cause I was like, okay, I don't know that I need to buy anything from Heaven Hill. I eventually got samples, but kudos to you for acknowledging that and realizing that, solving problems that a lot of people probably wouldn't see necessarily as a problem. But to think ahead and how you can make it just a better experience for everybody overall. All I'm going to say is, as long as nobody is standing in line for Barrel Craft Spirits, the bourbon slushy machine, Randy, as long as I have, access to that immediately, I don't care where everybody's standing.
They created a monster with that thing a couple of years ago, for sure. No, but you mentioned kudos. I also share the kudos with the distilleries for being a part of the,
sure.
I mean, that's a risk for them. Heaven Hill knows what they sell in that same spot. And now this year we're communicating more. We're showing like maps in the program magazine. We're showing specific where the distilleries are. So people are sitting there, maybe game planning where they're going to buy. We don't want to blindside anybody. And when they walk in the door or run, in some cases, run through the gate and they find out that they're just, who moved my cheese?
Yeah.
The distillery. So we're trying to make sure people know that there were some major movements. Again, it's a long weekend, but that first hour when the VIPs come through that, through the shotgun starting gate, it's we want to make sure people know where they're going beforehand.
Yeah. They don't want to be like the people that thought they were going to Bourbon and Beyond and wound up in Bardstown, right?
Oh, no.
But you guys got some cool stuff too. The Oris President's Club. I mean, we can talk about that. That was something you guys started. That was that last year? Was the first year?
This is the first year.
Oh, this is the first year. Okay.
Oris,
all right. Yeah. Talk about.
Oris was a sponsor last year.
Okay.
And that's more along the lines of the bourbon lifestyle. Mm-hmm. We made an assumption a couple of years ago that if you appreciate nicer bourbons and you're out spending a lot of money to get certain bourbons for your collection, that means that you're an affluent consumer, that you probably have other interests that are also, you appreciate quality. So when Oris came in, it's the last truly Swiss-made watch out there. And so they came in and they just wanted to set up their Airstream trailer that they had made into a mobile, like a retail shop. And going into it, I said, before we go and spend any time, or you bring that big 28-foot trailer here, what are your expectations? How do you define a success in a partnership? We're a small event. We're not 150,000 people, like Lollapalooza. We're very small, right, but we're curated as far as who attends. And they said, well, if we sell maybe 2 or 3 watches, one a day, we'll consider that a success. And they went on to saying some other high-end shows that they've done. They've sold 4 or 5. They sold 4 watches last year just on the opening night Bourbon in the Air event. That's before we opened. And they had a lot of interested people that were willing to give their name and contact information to get more information. It wasn't just we'll come back and talk to you.
Right.
So I've gone now from dealing with their ad agency to now we're the president of Oris North America and their VP of marketing. That's who I'm doing the Zoom calls with. And the agency's still there, but we got talking, how do we really immerse in this, in your brand, and how do I put your brand in front of consumers that can appreciate that? So this idea, and I've wanted to do this for a couple of years, having a membership, a club, not just 3 days of the festival and then you're gone. How do I stay in front of some special people all year round? So the idea of this President's Club was they get ultra VIP during the festival. That's an automatic. What does that look like? And so we started building that out. Very exclusive. You get your own reserved locker, guaranteed seating. You've got the 3rd floor of our event space, which you've seen since the renovation. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yep.
But then how else do we do this? So we need something in the fall, winter. And so Chris Morris with Woodford said, well, why don't we host this club at the Pendennis Club downtown in the Rathskeller? So very exclusive, invite member only kind of a thing. So that is slated for this fall. And then we wanted to take these folks on something that would be different than your typical barrel pick, which even that is very special. Not a lot of people get to do them.
Right.
So we got talking with Denny Potter and Jane Bowie, who started, Potter Jane. And they said, what if we did something similar to a barrel selection, but it's you're tasting the white dog and you're making selections based on that. And then a year from now, you get to come back and see how it's aged and sample. And then you get to the point where when they're bottling it, then these people get bottles of what they tasted and was just new make. And that we just did that a couple of weeks ago. Their first time ever, they were nervous. I mean, Denny and Jane have hosted how many, but they said, this is the first time we've met with somebody outside of our own little friends and family network as we're launching this distillery. So It was a big deal for them, and you could tell the people that were able to attend loved it and thought it was cool. And then they redid one, like a virtual, for the folks that couldn't make it here during that time. So it really is a year-round kind of a touch point. And then kind of hence the name, Oris is donating watches for these 24 people. So 24 people will get the 60th anniversary, kind of a retro throwback to their old watches. So that's going to be kind of the thing. Everybody walks out with a nice watch, and the president of the company and me, because I had the title president, not because I mean anything, but we're going to be there on Friday afternoon and give everybody their watches and thank them for being a part of this club. And there's going to be we're doing a bottle poll, so we have 24 bottles that the distilleries have donated. So everybody will get a chance to go home with a special bottle as being a member of this club.
Wow!
So and those are $7,000, membership. 3-night stay at the New Trail Hotel, exclusive shuttle, unlimited shuttles back and forth. And if you are staying at the Trail and you happen to have a Bourbon Festival ticket, that's great. Thank you. But you're not able to ride that shuttle. It's just for those 24 President's Club members to go back and forth. And it's just a very cool thing that we did. And we sold out in 24 hours.
Wow.
24 people.
Wow.
And that was very humbling to me. I mean, someone said, "You're just throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing what will stick, seeing how much money these." I said, "No, it was very strategic. It had nothing to do with let's see how much people will spend." But it did honestly really surprise me that we had that interest, because we had a plan B that if we didn't sell 12 packages, we priced it to be the same as the Decanter Club membership.
Oh yeah.
So we had installments. So you're not everyone's just going to throw a credit card out, put a $7,000 ticket on there. So we said we'll do it in installments, and that way if we didn't sell them, we could say you're automatically a Decanter Club member, and away you go. And then we just kind of let that idea go for a little bit. But yeah, we sold every darn one of them, and we actually had 4 of them sold technically before we went on sale to the public through a couple special folks. But it never ceases to amaze me that the fan base that we have for this festival, and I'm appreciative of every one of them.
Yeah. And I love to see the fact that, incorporating lifestyle into bourbon. I mean, yeah, bourbon is its own lifestyle, but I think that's great. And I think we had talked about, not necessarily that, but you had talked before about wanting to I think with maybe pens or something, like writing. Yeah, there you go.
Right. That's this year's pen.
There you go.
It's copper. It's actually raised relief, but it's the column still.
Nice.
That's a tribute to, and it was made by Retro 51. They're the official pen of the Bourbon Festival. That's the prototype, so there's no number, but they're limited to 800. And excellent writing utensils. And then Jacob Bromwell with our flasks. This year we went stainless steel, but same craftsmanship as the copper ones that we've been doing. I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's that lifestyle thing. So next year, as you see new partners that come in, we've always focused very heavily on industry. So the architects and the engineering firms, the construction companies, and obviously the cooperages, and we're being very careful with how we go out and get in front of non-industry consumer-facing partners, because we don't want it to be the gutter helmet, the kitchen makeover, bathroom makeover, and the State Farm agent sitting there trying to hand out business cards. That's not who we are. We want to make sure there's always a connection, and the lifestyle piece is kind of that barometer for who we're going to talk to and who we're not.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. Well, Randy, we're actually at the end of round 2 already. Cool. So let's just take another quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Randy Prasse, President and COO of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, in just a minute. Welcome to the kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company, where every visit is a celebration of tradition and flavor. Did you know that the kitchen table is nestled right within the heart of the distillery? That's right. You can experience the essence of James B. Beam's legacy while savoring their delectable dishes. Join them every Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a culinary journey like no other. Planning a special event? Let the kitchen table be your host, creating unforgettable memories for you and your guests. And don't miss their upcoming Claremont Supper Club event on July 17th, featuring the release of their new Jim Beam Lineage Batch 2. For more information and reservations, visit beamdistilling.com. The kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company. Come as a friend, leave as family. All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and sadly final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and unfortunately, I'm flying solo tonight. Matt wasn't able to be here, but I'm happy to be back in the saddle. And like I said earlier, can't imagine a better way to get back into the saddle, doing these podcasts live here in the Bourbon Life Studios than with my good friend, the president and COO of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, Mr. Randy Prasse. Randy, welcome back for round 3.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. And just for the record, you're doing really well solo, so don't worry about it.
You know, it always makes me nervous when I fly solo because, you know, we're not doing the nosing and the tasting tonight like we usually do. So that's kind of helped me out a little bit. But when I have to start giving my own nosing and tasting notes, I get a little nervous.
Well, that helped me because you remember last year,
yeah.
I said, don't make me go first. I mean, I'm getting better. You know, we've done 100 barrel selections, but I still don't like to be the one that gets put on the spot to offer. I mean, I got so excited a couple of years ago with Chris Morris leading a Woodford pick for us that I got like green apples. I'm like raising my hand like I'm in school, and he's like, "Yes, Randy, you're very good." There, pears and apples, but yeah, I don't like going first. I can play along with everybody. Just don't put me in the pole position.
Well, you know, it's funny. You're talking about Denny and Jane, and I mean, they're two of my favorite people. We've had them on the show probably 4 times each now. And just had him on last month or a month before last. And Denny is so funny because one of the first times we had him on, he goes, "You know what? I'm usually just like vanilla and caramel." And I mean, that's like his tasting notes. And Jane just gives him so much shit all the time about the fact that he doesn't like to give tasting notes. He's like, "I know what I like. I know if it tastes good. And if it tastes good to me, then I'm going to be happy." I'm like, "Hey, more power to you, man. You run a distillery."
Isn't that what it's all about at the end of the day? Is this something you would imagine yourself? And I always picture I'm watching a James Bond movie here in the little theater. Like, would I pour this and enjoy it there? Or it's Christmas time and I'm sitting around with the family and like that. I connect the whiskey to those like experiences and memories.
Yeah.
It has to kind of. So at the end of the day, Steve Coombs and Peggy know. I mean, they all have to know how to write all this stuff down. I just know, do I like it or don't I like it? And would I spend $60 or $100 or $200 for it? And that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely. Well, you know, you got Steve Coombs in your pocket, man. So Steve Coombs is obviously he's a great guy to have around when you have questions about tasting notes and stuff. So,
well, we started the whole single barrel thing. I know we're going to talk about that, but I was so new to this. While I was at Churchill Downs, I had 5 Woodford bottles and they were all the Derby bottles and none of them were opened. So he had like fresh clay to mold. And I didn't know what a barrel pick was. And do people actually buy these things? And I went to like Westport, Wine and Spirits, and I saw their store picks and I'm like, what are these? So, I mean, he literally took me from, this is what the experience is going to be. And the very first one I did in my life was a Blanton's over at Buffalo Trace. We did a Blanton's and a Buffalo Trace in their new tasting rooms, new when they first came out. And I didn't know. And you got Justin Sloan and Justin Thompson. Mm-hmm. They were buying the barrel at that time. That we still needed a retailer. So,
right.
And I'm thinking, well, I can say whatever the heck I want. These guys are the customers. And I'm like, no, fight for it. We want something that's on profile, but we want that outlier. And we want something that if you have 6 people on a panel, you don't want just all 6 people to rubber stamp it and the experience is over. So I've always taken that into everything we've done is even if it is an easy choice, I want to blind it. I've seen some people that were really on A blindly, flip to B and then they're, but that's part of that experience. And in half an hour, you let this thing sit for 8, 10, 12 minutes and it opens up and you got a whole different, we've ended up buying 2 barrels or picking 2 different barrels from the same distiller because of that. Because after it aired out and opened up a little bit, or you put a little rocks in it, it changes the whole experience. So no, I think you should ever be an expert. I think you should always be a lifelong learner. And at the end of the day, would you plop down your credit card at the counter to buy it and take it home and drink it?
I would agree with that 100%. And you guys do a ton of barrel picks. How many did you guys end up doing this year, Randy? For this
34. So down a little bit. Last year we did 44 with 39 different distilleries, and a lot of those were those doubles. But it just, the reality is with the law changes, the distillers, we're invited in as kind of an honorary selection panel. We've got no skin in the game. We're not the retailer. They're picking it with us, and then they have to bottle it and sell it at the festival. So at the end of the day, all we are is it's just kind of a fun honorary thing. So But no, we had a couple of really good bangers this year that people were really excited about. We had one or two that were unanimous, even though we wanted to fight over it a little bit. There was just no, trying to prop it up and make it a test for someone. But so we started off with 11 the first year. That's including the donated one I mentioned earlier from Maker's Mark. Yep. So we had 10 plus the donated. And then I think the next year we went up to 16 or 18 and then 20 something. And then it just blew up. As soon as all the distilleries could sell it themselves, then it went up to like 40 something last year. And then it just kind of settled back down. They want to sell them at the festival, and some of the up and coming distilleries maybe didn't have the name recognition to really move all those 150 or 200 bottles at the festival, so they ended up sticking with a couple of them and having to sell them. So I don't mind every couple of years, rotating a few out. But man, when you taste what we've got on some of these this year, they get better and better. And I built a shelf in my office. I kind of renovated over the winter months, and I built a shelf just for our barrel picks. And I think this year, after that 34, I think we're over 100, 105 now total.
Wow.
Starting off with one and me not even knowing what the hell it was.
Yeah. So, I had the privilege of picking that Elijah Craig barrel proof with you guys last year. It was a great experience. I mean, it was so much fun to hang out with you guys and get the chance to do that. You guys obviously knew that was my favorite bourbon. So it was quite a privilege and an honor to do that with you guys, and still got the barrel. Stacy was great. You guys were awesome to do that and let me have that barrel as well. It has Kentucky Bourbon Festival on it, but it also has Elijah Craig barrel proof. So couldn't be happier to have that, Randy.
That's cool. The only barrel that I have, and this goes back to 2022 Rabbit Hole, we did a barrel pick. And other than Fred Minnick doing one for it was Tornado really for something, but the Bourbon Festival was Rabbit Hole's first ever barrel selection, single barrel type thing. So when they brought that out and it had the Shakespeare label, first year they had the 6 different labels, and they brought the barrel to the festival and they had one of those spandex whatever covers, and afterwards Cave says, "This is the first one we've ever done. I want you to have the barrel." And so that's now kind of centerpiece of the man cave bourbon theater. I like Rabbit Hole, but I also just again, you fall in love with the people behind the brand, and then the brand just tends to stand up. Rob and Bill, and then Thomas Bolton, you and Denny and Jane when they were still Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark I was aware of it, but it tastes so much better when you know the people, and that's kind of the way I feel about Rabbit Hole and Angel's Envy and Heaven Hill. All these distilleries now, I'm friends with the people that make the whiskey, and it just does make the whiskey taste better, and it's kind of fun. So I'm glad you were able to do that. Do you remember what the proof was? That was a 131 or something.
It was up there, and off the top of my head, Randy, I don't, and I had to find the bottle. I've got a few of those barrel proofs floating around here, and it's they all look exactly alike, so I don't know which one's.
I've got one. I've got a Heaven Hill Elijah Craig sitting on the top shelf. That's 136.1.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to open it until I find a higher proof. It doesn't have to be Elijah Craig, but I've not seen a bottled, barrel proof higher than 136. So that's sitting there at top of the hickey, waiting to be dethroned. But no. But
oh yeah.
The cool thing I love about that, and we did that with Old Forester last year with our barrel, is that people sometimes are afraid of the proof, especially if you're newer to tasting. And I've had the experience where the higher proof drinks so much smoother. Now, I mean, it still sneaks up on you, don't get me wrong, but it's not this burn that you would expect. I've seen people actually shy away and they're afraid of it. And I'm like, just do yourself a favor and try it, and pace yourself, like you said earlier. But it's just so surprising how smooth and rich and really drinkable and approachable they can be.
Yeah, that's what I love about them when they're that high proof barrel strength. You get the full effect of it. I mean, you get what it is actually developed into. And once it's proofed down, it'll change, obviously. And you can always put water in it if you choose to. But man, there's just something about drinking that high proof bourbon that's just comes straight out of the barrel. I mean, even bottled, obviously, it's still straight out of the barrel. Just a totally different experience. And there are people that are afraid of it, but no, you just gotta do it.
More for us.
Exactly right. So all these bottles, Randy, I mean, you guys do a raffle. This is kind of a good way, I guess, to move into that conversation. You do the raffle. Can you talk about that? Because there's some changes with it for this year, right?
Well, and we are a 501c3 charitable nonprofit, so recognized by the IRS as a nonprofit. So the festival itself, while it is a fundraiser, we've been mainly investing that money back into the programming. $265,000 the 2021, and we're up over $2 million now with production costs and everything. So it costs more to do this. So the raffle is just kind of a nice little boost, but it also, we take one of each of our single barrels and we raffle them off in usually 2 or 3 lots. So I think this year we're 34. They're going to be 2 equal lots of 17, and it'll be random. You'll have, your Four Roses and Maker's Mark in each one, and Knob Creek, but then you'll also have some of the craft, so it kind of balances it out. But it's really kind of a fun way for us to, again, put the distilleries first,
right?
Allow our consumers, our shared bourbon enthusiasts, to have one more opportunity to participate in that, and then it's a nice fundraiser as well. But in the past couple of years, we've launched it in mid-November. We do the drawing mid-December, right before Christmas, so the winners can know that they've got Santa Claus is coming their way with some bourbon. But the problem with that was the Oscar Getz Whiskey Museum there in Spalding Hall. They do an annual that started off as just a pappy only, and it's kind of spread out. And we're good partners. They're our landlord, but most of their raffle tickets are sold to our people while they're in town or whatever. Right. And I thought we're missing an opportunity to have exposure for our own raffle. So this year we're debuting it on Thursday, the opening night, Bourbon in the Air on September 4th. And I'm having a custom made, it looks like an Aztec pyramid with the different tiers. So we'll have all 34 of the bottles on display and have lighting on it. I'm looking at show business, having an armed guard standing there, kind of like when the Derby Trophy or the Stanley Cup comes to town. And have a QR code so people can actually go there and scan the QR code and buy their raffle chances right there. You can buy one for each lot or whatever. But if we sell them all out during the festival, there's only 1,000 chances. Then we would announce the winner there. But obviously, we have up to 30 days that we would continue to promote it to people that we want festival goers to get the first crack at it, and then after anything left, we'd sell. But it just kind of helps us capitalize a little bit more on the people while they're in town. And again, it's not meant to discourage people from buying for the museum, because that's our building, that's our home. So fundraising helps us, but because they get new windows and stuff put in the building or whatever. But I just felt like we were not taking advantage of the people that we had coming through. And the last 3 years, it's been 85% of the people come from outside of Kentucky. And we are getting more and more international now, which I knew we would. We're never going to necessarily go out and promote internationally, but it's just kind of a cool way to engage with people one additional time before they go back home, and hopefully make a couple people really happy with some really good bottles.
Yeah, no doubt. And it is great, because last year I know I spent some time talking to some people from Georgia that were brand new bourbon drinkers that had just come up. They heard of the festival and decided to come up to Kentucky, and first time here. They were having a great time. But yeah, I mean, it's an awesome experience to get to, hang out with new people that are new to bourbon, but people that are obviously experienced and have been doing it for a long time as well. So that's really cool. So Randy, we're almost
fun. It's fun to produce it. And that once you have to keep in mind, people say, well, what do you do the rest of the year? And I mean, this is a year round, but those couple of days when I don't normally take the time to really sit back, I need to mentally check down and take a look at the people, because the smiles and the people, the talking, and I've overheard people that, hey, I'll see you next year. They only see each other once a year at the festival, and they get together and have dinner while they're here. And I mean, I know we create that kind of an environment. I just need to take a chance, take a step back and enjoy it a little bit more while I'm in the moment, and not have to trust everything to someone else's feedback. That'll be hopefully this year. Hopefully you'll see me check down a little bit out of the operations mode and more into talking to people and getting to know people. So
and poison ivy free. Was it last year that was the poison ivy incident?
I had poison ivy, and then I also 2 years ago I had 2nd-degree burns on my face, because I decided Labor Day weekend that would be a good time to burn the big brush pile in our backyard, and it flared up, burnt half my face off. So I'm kind of in bubble wrap mode right now. I put a swimming pool in on top of where that burn pile is, so the temptation is gone. And I just need to make sure I don't fall asleep out there in my floaty and get sunburned. But no more home projects. Stacy did something and sprained her ankle. I mean, there's always somebody doing something. So this year everybody's like light duty for the next 2 weeks until we get this.
I think that's a great plan. Well, Randy, we're almost at the end of the show here. So let's talk a little bit about next year. Because I know you've got the dates planned already, but let's go ahead and talk about that. Share that if you would.
Well, one of the challenges we've had is, again, we mentioned Bourbon and Beyond, and it's not the only factor, but wanting to announce the dates before or at least during the current festival, because we know people like to leave and make their reservations before they even leave Bardstown to come back. And so we've been trying to help our Airbnbs and hotel motel people get that information, working with tourism. So we announced it 2 weeks ago that we're going to be September 11, 12, and 13. And then if you count Thursday, the Bourbon in the Air, as the 10th, a 4-day festival, so the 10th through the 13th. Okay. We announced that early on so people can make experience, or get in there and get all their reservations. And it's our 35th year, so we're really going to try to ramp it up even more than we normally would, just to kind of celebrate that, but also celebrate all of those years of the community, putting this thing on their backs to make it happen. And so it's the failure rate on a festival is usually first 4 or 5 years. If you get past that 4 or 5 years, you're home free. And I'm not talking about the last 4 or 5 years of retooling, and I'm talking about the very first 5 years. Yeah. You couldn't give bourbon away to people, and somehow there was a festival that was celebrating the people in the industry and the people who made it. And now we're the caretakers of this. But yeah, so September 10th through the 13th, if you're already making plans, maybe you couldn't be here this year with us in a couple of weeks, you definitely put that on your calendar. We'll be on sale again mid-April like we've been doing. So very predictable that way. But if you want to make sure you get all the latest, I always encourage people to sign up to be a Bourbon Insider. It's on our website. Click subscribe. We don't spam people. It's always about festival dates, and occasionally during the year we'll have a partner, like a discount for a watch or something like that. But it's always very current and relevant to what we're doing. It's not a lot of spam, but get in line first for next year.
That's right. Get there. Everybody needs to attend. I mean, it's a great experience. And you guys, like I said, Randy, I say it over and over, but you have taken this event, you guys and your team, you've made this just the premier event in bourbon and in whiskey, I think. I mean, it's an incredible experience. It's so much fun. And people, if they've not experienced it, I mean, you just need to take the time, come to Kentucky if you've not been here. Even if you have been here, come back and experience the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, because it is definitely worth it.
I agree. And it's really, again, it's a simple model. Put those distilleries first, make sure they feel the love all year round. We're producing an event that allows them to showcase their brands, and then everything else falls into place after that. But, my old boss at Churchill Downs once said, if you don't have the 20 horses in the starting gate, you don't have the Derby. All the other fanfare and NBC coverage and all the sponsorship and seats and fancy hats and bow ties, you got to have those horses in the starting gate or you don't have it. So in our case, those just, the starting gate is our distilleries. And in this case, 65 of them, not 20, but that's what works. That's what works. So I hope to welcome everybody to the event. If not for this year, definitely for next year.
Definitely. So Randy, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here tonight?
No, other than it's a unique honor that I'm still yet to be verified. Five-time guest. I'm very honored, and I've become really good friends over those years, and
yes,
we've shared some really good off mic, off camera times too, and I look forward to more of those. But no, I just the bourbon capital of the world. Unlike what Bill Samuels used to say, now you can't help but know that you're in the bourbon capital, especially on that one weekend of September. So y'all come down.
Absolutely. Well, Randy, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down, especially this close to the festival. I know you've got a lot going on. It's always great just to get to spend time with you and catch up, even if it's remote and not in person. We'll remedy that here sometime soon, I hope. But I'm looking forward to it. 2 weeks. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to see everybody there. It's just going to be a good time. It always is. And I just can't wait to get back down there. But we are the Bourbon Life Podcast. We appreciate you, our listeners, for tuning in, checking it out. We couldn't do the show without your support and without your help. So thank you guys for tuning in week after week and checking us out and giving us love. We really appreciate that. Just want to say, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, you can check us out there as well at The Bourbon Life. We also have our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. Please feel free to join us in there. We'd love to have you join that. Don't forget our good friend Mike, Big Chief, who does the Whiskey Trip podcast that comes out under our umbrella. That's every Tuesday. He's also on Facebook and Instagram as The Whiskey Trip, but you can check him out as well. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the Bourbon Life.